Hi everyone! Did you know Earth has lots of different climates? Some places are super hot like deserts, while others are freezing cold. In today's video for Blind Truth, I'll be talking about the 15 coldest cities in the world. Number 15. Verkhoyansk, Russia. In Russia, there's a town called Verkhoyansk that has really extreme weather. It has recorded the highest and lowest temperatures in certain areas. In one instance, it reached 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the hottest ever above the Arctic Circle. On another occasion, it got as cold as -90 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest in Asia. So, winters, they are not nice at all, with an average monthly temperature of -48.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Verkhoyansk has a super cold climate without much cloud cover, making it even colder. Along with another town called Oymyakon, it's known as one of the coldest places on Earth. These places are where the lowest air temperatures have ever been measured in the northern and southern hemispheres. Only Greenland and Antarctica have had colder temperatures. The air there is really cold and heavy, causing temperature changes and creating very deep and low spots. Verkhoyansk has the biggest temperature difference in the world, going up to 189 degrees Fahrenheit. There are only around 1,300 people living there. Despite the extreme cold, the town has an airport and a place for taking care of reindeer. But the cold can be really dangerous, so the people who live there know when it's just too cold to go outside. If you are enjoying this, why not hit subscribe? Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to us at Blind Truth. Number 14. Utqiagvik, or Barrow, United States. Near the Arctic Circle, it's really cold. Utqiagvik used to be called Barrow, and it's super close to the Arctic Circle. That's why it's one of the coldest cities in the world. It's the northernmost city in the US and one of the most northern cities in the whole world. It's in Alaska. Alaska is known for its really cold winters, but Utqiagvik is even colder. It has the coldest average temperature of all the cities in Alaska. The cold is made worse by strong winds that can go as fast as 60 miles per hour, making it hard to see because of all the snow. Since Utqiagvik is so far north, the sun doesn't come up for 65 days every year. There are only about 120 days where the temperature goes above freezing. The lowest temperature recorded here was -56 degrees Fahrenheit. The weather is called tundra, and the winters are dangerous if you're not ready for the freezing cold and strong winds. But if you can handle the cold, Utqiagvik is a great place to see the northern lights. Tourists can also enjoy the beautiful tundra around the city, which goes on for 200 miles to the south. The city itself is a bit over 21 square miles and only has about 5,000 people living there. Number 13. Harbin, China. Harbin is a big city in China with lots of people. It's really surprising because even though it's big, it's also one of the coldest cities in the world. More than 6 million people live there. The city's original name meant a place for drying fish. It started in 1898 when many people from Russia came to live there. In the 1920s, it was a trendy place for fashion, even before Shanghai. But what's special about Harbin is that it's called the Ice City. Instead of hiding from the cold, they celebrate it. Every winter, they have a festival called the International Ice and Snow Festival. They make amazing sculptures out of ice that light up. Lots of tourists come to see it and enjoy other winter activities. Harbin is also important for science. It's one of the top cities in the world for scientific research. The winters there are super long and very dry. In January, the average temperature is just above freezing, but it can drop as low as -35 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow covers the ground for almost half of the year in Harbin. Number 12. Yakutsk, Russia. Yakutsk is a really cold city in Russia, far north where it's icy. It's super chilly, even colder than most places in the world. Around 350,000 people live there, which is quite a lot considering how freezing it gets. The city's usually very cold, with the temperature often hitting -41 degrees Fahrenheit in January. Sometimes it even drops to a crazy low of -83 degrees Fahrenheit. That's really, really cold. The city is built on frozen ground that's always icy, called permafrost. Most houses here are put on strong concrete poles because of this. But despite the extreme cold, Yakutsk still has cool things like art galleries, theaters for plays and dancing, and museums all about permafrost. So, when it's too cold outside, people can stay indoors and have fun. Number 11. Vostok Station, Antarctica. Vostok Station is a super cold place in Antarctica, not like a town or city, but people work there. It's a Russian research spot in inland Prince Elizabeth Land. It's crazy cold, like super duper cold. In 1983, it hit a mind-boggling temperature of -128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And in 2005, they felt a super chilly wind at -200 degrees Fahrenheit. They've been doing research there since 1957, focusing on drilling into ice and studying magnets. About 30 folks stay there in the summer, but in winter, only about 15 tough it out. It's freezing all year, hardly ever rains, and strangely, it's pretty sunny, although that doesn't mean warm. It's the coldest working weather station, but there's another one, Plateau Station, which might have been colder, but it's not active anymore and not as reliable. So, Vostok Station is like the champion of super cold places. Number 10. Astana, Kazakhstan. Astana is a modern city and the capital of Kazakhstan. In January, it's usually about 6.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Sometimes it gets much colder, even dropping to -61 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's not normal. The city gets so cold that its river freezes from mid-November to early April. Astana is big, with over 1 million people. It's the second biggest city in Kazakhstan after Almaty. It got a lot of modern buildings, skyscrapers, and cool places to visit after it became the capital in 1997. But it's really, really cold there, especially in winter. If you go in winter, make sure you wear super warm clothes. Number 9. Saguenay, Quebec. Saguenay in Quebec can get really, really cold. Even though most people think Winnipeg, Manitoba, is the coldest city in Canada. In Saguenay, the coldest it has ever been was -49 degrees Fahrenheit on February 5th, 1916. Almost 50 days each year have temperatures below -4 degrees Fahrenheit, and 7 times a year it drops below -22. The super chilly weather comes from the really cold waters nearby, like the Labrador Current and the Hudson Bay, plus how far north Saguenay is. About 160,000 people live there, and it's around 120 miles north of Quebec City. Saguenay is split into 3 parts, and it sits in a low spot in the ground called the Saguenay Graben on the Canadian Shield. That actually makes it a bit warmer than the areas around it, which is why people live there. It claims to be Canada's coldest city, but it depends on what you're measuring, like the number of cold days or the absolute coldest temperature. So, sometimes, others argue about that title. But one thing's for sure, Saguenay has the coldest days with the lowest highest temperatures compared to all the other cities in Canada. Number 8. Fairbanks, Alaska. Fairbanks, Alaska is a big city in the middle of Alaska. It's the second biggest city there, but not many people live there compared to other places. Only about 32,000 people live in the main part of Fairbanks. It's not very big, but that's because Alaska doesn't have a lot of people in general. Fairbanks is super cold because it's really far north. It snows a lot there, usually from October to February, but sometimes even until May. In winter, the temperature is usually around -20 degrees Fahrenheit, but it can get even colder, like as low as -66 degrees Fahrenheit. The city sits at the bottom of a valley, so cold air gets trapped there, making it even chillier. Because it's so far north, during winter, the sun is up for only a few hours each day. On the shortest day of the year, December 21st, it's only sunny for about 3 hours and 41 minutes. But even though it's freezing, Fairbanks has amazing snowy landscapes, especially when the northern lights light up the sky. It's like a magical winter wonderland. Number 7. Snag, Canada. Canada has some really cold cities and towns because it's very north. They always try to be the coldest. The coldest place ever in Canada was at -81.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Some other places in Canada also broke cold records, like Winnipeg and Yellowknife. Eureka Nunavut is known as the coldest based on its yearly temperature, but Snag in Yukon Territory holds the record for the coldest day. It used to be at Gold Rush Town with an airfield, but when the gold was gone, people left. Snag set the cold record in 1947, and even though no one lives there now, it's still famous for being the coldest place in Canada, although it's not the coldest all year, just for one day. Number 6. Hell, Norway. Norway is a cold place with really low temperatures. The coldest spot in mainland Norway is the Finnmark Plain. The coldest it's ever been recorded was in Karasjok, where it dropped to a freezing -60 degrees Fahrenheit. Even though the town's name might make you think of heat and fire, it's actually one of the coldest towns on Earth. In this place, temperatures often go down to a chilly -13 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, it's like the saying, when hell freezes over. The town is small and charming. It has a train station, a grocery store, a gas station, and a retirement home. Retirement in a place called Hell might not be what most people imagine. About 1,500 people live here, and they have a blues festival every summer. Interestingly, despite what it sounds like in English, the town's name actually means luck in Norwegian. But it wasn't named for being lucky. It came from some cliffs nearby that were called Heller in an old language. Anyway, Hell is a super cold town, and there are a lot of jokes you can make with its name, but I won't go into those right now. Number 5. International Falls, Minnesota. The United States is known for many things, but being very cold isn't usually one of them. So it might surprise you to find an American city on a list of really cold places that isn't in Alaska. This small town, called International Falls in Minnesota, is actually one of the coldest. It gets tons of snow and super low temperatures during winter. They usually get about 73 inches of snow, and because it stays so cold, the snow doesn't melt much. From December to March, there can be 5 feet or more of snow that just stays there. That's why International Falls is called the icebox of the nation. It spends about 109 days a year with temperatures below freezing. The town started in 1870, covers an area of about 6.4 square miles, and has around 5,800 people living there. In January, they celebrate their freezing status with something called Icebox Days. Number 4. Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital city in the world. It's in Mongolia and sits really high above the sea, about 4,430 feet. The weather there is very extreme. In summer, it can get as hot as 102 degrees Fahrenheit, but in winter, it drops to a freezing -44 degrees Fahrenheit. Even with this cold, lots of students live there and go to universities or colleges. Because of them, Ulaanbaatar is one of the youngest cities globally, with most people being under 35. The city has cool places to visit, like art galleries and Buddhist temples. It's also near a big park called Bogd Khan Yul National Park. If you're not good with cold weather, it might be better to visit Ulaanbaatar in the warmer months, when it's not so chilly, especially if you want to hang out with the younger crowd. Number 3. Norilsk, Russia. If you ever wanted to know about the northernmost city in the world, it's Norilsk in Russia. Besides being really far north, it's also super cold there. It has the coldest average temperature of any big city, and it's one of only 3 big cities that's always frozen. Norilsk is the second biggest city in the Arctic Circle, after Murmansk. The winters there are really long, from October to May, and it's freezing for about 240 days a year. Snow covers the place for 7 to 9 months. About 190,000 people live in Norilsk, but it's pretty polluted because of mining. The city is sitting on some of the biggest nickel deposits in the world, so mining is a huge deal there, but mining causes a lot of pollution. In fact, it's considered the most polluted city in Russia, according to Russia's stats service. A group called the Blacksmith Institute even says it's one of the top 10 most polluted spots on Earth. Norilsk has been off-limits to people from other countries since 2001. So, the only way to see it is through pictures because it's officially a closed city. Number 2. Villa Las Estrellas. Antarctica is a really cold place, and it's no surprise it's on videos about the coldest spots. But guess what? There's a small village called Villa Las Estrellas there. People live there all year. It's on King George Island, part of Chile's claim in Antarctica. The name means Hamlet of the Stars because it has no bright lights, so you can see lots of stars. About 150 people live there in summer, but only about 8 in winter. It's cold, but not as cold as some places in the Arctic. It snows a lot, and in winter, there's not much sunlight. Scientists and researchers live there with their families. There's a school for kids from grades 1 to 8. Everyone lives in small houses. There's a small hospital with basic equipment and 2 beds for dental care. But if someone wants to live there, they have to get their appendix removed first, even kids. It's hard to reach this place, especially when it's very cold and snowy. But once there, people can play indoor sports like tennis, basketball, volleyball, or ping pong. They also have a sauna. They only have 3 computers with internet, a radio, and a TV that shows programs from Santiago. That's how they pass the time in this cold, isolated town. Number 1. Omicron, Russia. Antarctica is really cold, right? But there's another place called Oymyakon in Russia that's even colder and more dangerous. It's a small village with about 500 people who somehow live there despite the freezing cold. The temperature in Oymyakon can go as low as -90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's so cold that nothing can grow there, so people struggle to get enough food. It's too risky for most people to visit because they could freeze. Even the plumbing freezes in winter, so they use outhouses. They mostly eat meat like reindeer because there's no vegetation. Oymyakon is said to be the coldest place where people live. The folks there know how to survive, but it's so extreme that most of us wouldn't make it. If you want to watch more cool videos, check out here.